Welcome to Aspiring Hollywood. I'm Luciano Saber, and today we have yet another special show for you guys with a very, very special guest. Casting director Neely Gurman is joining us to talk about the wonderful world of acting and casting. How great is that? Neely, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So tell me, how'd you get started?
Oh, well, it's something you just kind of fall into.
Yeah?
In college, I started interning at a talent agency.
Okay.
And it wasn't creative enough for me. So I moved on to an internship at Universal Studios, feature casting, and just loved it. And then I graduated college and went on a vacation and then got a real job right after.
Oh, wow, okay.
And the rest is history.
Well, great. And you've worked, I hear that you're working all the time. You've worked on many great projects. Do you want to talk about any of them?
Yeah, I started in TV, and then I worked in movies, and then I went back to TV, and then I just kind of went out on my own like 5 years ago and started doing indie projects. Okay. Anywhere from indie movies, commercials, music videos, some infomercials.
Well, you're in the perfect studio today because we cater at Aspiring Hollywood. I don't know how much you know about the show, but we cater to the independent film producer and the independent artist overall, I should say. You know, we don't discriminate. You know, we have actors, writers, singers, composers, you know, the whole producers, the whole spectrum. So you're perfect to talk to about casting because it applies not only to actors, but certainly to producers and directors. Right? So speaking as a director, what would I have to do to prepare for the casting process? What do you need?
You just have to know what you're looking for, and I'm the person that fishes out the talent for you. Okay. So when we're doing an indie, there's not always a lot of time to do pre-reads, which means I pre-read actors before I bring them to the director. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, you know, depending on how much time there is and how big the movie is, and right. We'll either go straight to producer-director sessions, or I'll pre-read and then bring them to you. Right, but then the director, the producer would have to provide you obviously with a script. Oh, right? Of course. To start with, yes, right? Start with the script. Exactly. And kind of, you know, then we put out, basically you give me a script, I'll also send it to this place called Breakdown Services. They break it down through characters, and then we release that through all of LA. If it's an indie project, most likely just LA, not New York. Right. It'll go to every agent and manager, and they'll submit to me. Right. And then I go in and just pick. And now, a lot of times, independent producers, directors don't necessarily have the luxury of a big budget or even a mediocre budget, right? So do you work with minuscule budgets as well as the larger ones? I do work with small budget films. Basically, I'll get a small fee to cast and then work a back end deal. Sure. You know, and hope for the best. Right. And hope it gets made. And talk about your process, because every casting director has a process. And obviously, as you mentioned before, it's a very creative field, right? Where your input will sway the director or the producer into, you know, casting somebody, right? So talk about that process. What's that like? Yeah, I mean, sometimes like directors will have a different vision, and we'll read, you know, anywhere from 100 to 300 actors. It just depends on the timing, and a director might like somebody better than I will, and I'll try to say, hey, you know what, we really should go with this person. And he'll be like, no, we need to go with this person. So sometimes we'll just come to a happy medium and agree. Some people are liabilities on sets that we have to be careful of, even though producer-director wants to offer somebody a role. Right. And that's something we need to touch on, because I found myself in a situation on my previous projects, I'm not going to say which one, where we looked at an actor, we really wanted this person, I should say, and the insurance company wouldn't insure this actor. Because of their reputation. He or she is a liability probably, and yes, they don't want to have to deal with them, right, especially if they happen to have a bad past. Yes, exactly. Whether it was drugs or whatever. They've been in the news before, let's just say that. Right, I had a similar experience that this agent kept pitching an actor that has been in trouble, and we didn't want to deal with it. And you know, my producers didn't want anything to do with it, so we had to just move on to. And exactly, else. and that's something that film producers, directors have to consider. You know, a lot of different elements, not just if somebody's a good actor or looks good, right? Yeah, I mean, you want to get a name, you want to get somebody good, but also if they're up and coming, you know, if they can support another lead actor, and Again, it all depends on the budget, and some actors, if they really love the film, you know, a big actor will come on board and, you know, do a little cameo or whatnot.
Now, I'm going to switch hats now, and from an actor's perspective, you know, going through the audition process, it's, again, a nerve-wracking experience. I've done both, you know, for many, many years. And you go to the audition and you don't know what the casting director is looking for. You don't know what the producer wants, you know, right. so then you have to kind of guess at how you're going to approach the material and the character.
Right.
Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't get it right.
But we'll adjust them. I mean, you know, our director will kind of just redirect them if we like their read.
Right.
And we'll just kind of tell them what we're looking for.
Right. And then talk about all the other elements that go into it, because you may read an actor that's phenomenal, right, and nails it on the spot. But maybe you've already decided on a leading lady that when you put them together, they just don't, there's no chemistry, they don't match.
Right, and sometimes at the end when we decide, we'll decide maybe on 2 or 3 actors, male, 2 or 3 females, and we'll do a little chemistry read at the end.
I mean, that is just mind-boggling to me, because there are thousands and thousands of actors out there trying to get a part. And it comes down to that. I mean, they could be brilliant in their reading, but just because they don't.
Right, chemistry is extremely important, because you want to, you know, you also want a good ensemble as well. So you've got to put them all together at the end and see how they all, you know, read together.
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying to my audience all the time, guys, don't sweat it. If you don't get a part, it's not because you're bad necessarily, but it's also all the other elements. Maybe you have the wrong eye color, or the wrong, you know, you're the wrong height, for example, right? Like
sometimes, I mean, you don't want a tall woman with a short man. Even like when we do like, you know, an all-guy ensemble, you want all the guys to mesh. You need the actors to mesh in order to make the film.
Right.
So it's just, it's all about the chemistry. And
so let's talk about advice then, you know, on both sides of the table, right? What advice would you have for a producer-director when it comes to casting?
Keep an open mind, and sometimes we have to look outside the box, because what they may envision is not always what's good for the film.
Right.
You know, whether it's finding a name or finding a good actor, at some point, if they're just trying to make the movie, it's not about finding a name, it's finding the actor who can play the part right.
Right.
And every director, producer has their own vision of their film.
Sure.
You know, and then we bring in the writer, and then they're like, oh my gosh, that's not what I envisioned. So we all try to, you know, come to a happy medium, agree on you know, what we're looking for. But I'm the middleman, so really the producer-director has the last say in what they want for the film.
Right. So essentially, play nice out there, guys. and what about advice for actors in terms of preparation? And I mean, it's really a journey for an actor,
They
isn't it?
just need to come in prepared. You know, we don't like when actors come in and say, oh, I just got this yesterday. We know you just got this yesterday because we just gave you the audition yesterday. So just because you got the audition yesterday doesn't mean you're not going to nail it, because an actor that might have had the sides a week before may not do as well as the guy that just had it last night.
Right.
So, you know, we just come prepared as much as you can. And, you know, you don't need to give us too much information as to how you prepare for this. Right.
Now, let me ask you this. If a film director wants to get in touch with you to, you know, perhaps talk about helping him with your casting services, how would they do that?
They can find me, well, it's word of mouth, you know, it's networking, people can find me through Breakdown Services. There's a book of casting directors, and people have found me that way for indie projects. Okay.
Any last words of wisdom or any advice for the acting community out there?
Actors need to look like their headshots. I've worked for casting directors that have actually called out actors, and I actually learned from him that I've done that as well, because it's like if you're taking a picture that's, you know, 20 years old and you're coming in and you don't look like your picture, you just wasted your time and my time.
Right.
So please have current headshots, because that's very, very important, especially if we're looking for a brunette and you come in blonde. Well, that wasn't on your picture that, you know, you're currently a blonde.
Sure. Now let's assume that an actor comes in and says, and starts doing their part, and their read, I should say, and they mess up. Should they stop and ask to redo it, or should they just plow through it?
Sometimes they'll just keep going, and sometimes they'll ask if they can redo it.
And what
I'm
do you
very
prefer?
nice. I let them redo it, because it's so hard to audition, and I try to make actors feel as comfortable as they can in my room. And I'm just super nice. You know, I had this one experience with this actor. I think it was his first audition ever, and he must have, I mean, he really screwed up like 5 times, and it was like, I think he knew it, and we just were like, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And what's your experience in terms of the smaller budgets? And again, the reason I keep bringing up the smaller budgets is because that's, you know, the audience members usually have lower amounts of money to work with. You know, more often than not.
It's more creative, though.
It's a lot more creative.
It's more creative to work on a low-budget indie because it's a challenge to try to get good actors.
But exactly. But do you have the experience that a lot of name actors will work with a lower budget or unknown director? It's
relationships with agents. It also depends on the director if they have a good reel and who we can get signed on at the beginning.
Right.
You know, but it's all about relationships. And I've been able to get some pretty good actors to come work on my indie films. Yeah. I've been lucky.
And that's the value of having a casting director on your project, guys, because a lot of times you think, oh, I can do the casting. I mean, what's the big deal? I'm just going to go to Breakdown Services or go to Backstage West and put a notice. But believe me, it helps, and I'm speaking from experience. Get a casting director, you know, and also in production, have a unit production manager, have a post-production manager. You have no idea how crucial that is. Well, Neely, thank you so much for joining us on Aspiring Hollywood. There was some great advice and great insight on casting. Thank you, and thank you guys for watching. Until next time, I'm Luciano Saber. And by the way, keep coming back to aspiringhollywood.com because we have these type of great interviews with working professionals in the industry all the time. Thanks again.